Hi, once again, my name is Peter Vogel, and there was a question on the RC groups about how to set up the training mode for the Jeti radios. So I have here a DC16, which is my primary radio, and a DS16, which I got for demo purposes and also to let people fly my plane with a handheld style radio. So we'll start with getting the DC16 bound up to the receiver and so forth. We should be fully ready to go here. Receiver bound, I had pre-bound that. So I just have one servo, and you can see that servo moving on the aileron channel. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to turn off my receiver, and I'm going to go in here. It's going to start complaining about a signal loss, but that's okay. I'm going to go here into Advanced Properties, down to the Wireless Modes / Trainer, and here there's various modes. It's currently in the default mode, and I'm going to switch that to the teacher mode. Note that you'll have to do that piece of it every time you turn on the radio. It goes back to the default or dual path mode, whatever you had previously set. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set the trainer switch. I have SA here as a spring-loaded switch, which is my preference for doing training mode. I also have a push button here on my stick, which is actually quite convenient for training as well. So I'm going to go ahead and make the stick momentary switch be the trainer mode. So when I want to hand over controls, I just push down on the switch and hold. So here we go. Just push the switch. It recognizes SK, and we're good to go. It knows that the primary is bound. What we need to do next is pair the secondary module. So let's go over here to the DS16, and let me escape out of that. We're going to go to the Advanced Properties once again. We're going to go to Wireless Switch Modes and Trainer, and we're going to set the mode to Student. So now it's ready to pair the primary transmitter module, and here we're going to pair the secondary transmitter module. So I'll go ahead and say, go ahead and pair. Whoop. That'll teach me to hit the wrong button. So we'll go ahead and pair the secondary transmitter module, and it says there's an unregistered module detected. We'll just go ahead and say yes on both of these. And because they're sitting side by side, I'm getting a low signal, but that's fine. So on the face of it, that should be all we need to do, except here if I switch into, I still got control. Oh, actually, let me turn on. I still have control here, but if I try to switch it to trainer, I don't have any control over here. That's because I haven't enabled the student for any controls. This is actually a much more fluid and controllable training system than most that I've seen. So most straightforward thing I can do, I can go ahead and enable the ailerons, and I'll go ahead and just enable all the basic controls, which is what I normally do with a student. I want to know when they're messing up, and I want them to have full control over the plane. So at this point, I've given the student control. I press the button here, and now the DS16 is in control of the ailerons, and the DC is not. And now it is. Now, some people may not feel comfortable letting people fly a trainer entirely by themselves, even though you can take over in a moment's notice. That's what this value field here is all about. I can actually dial down how much control the student is going to have over the ailerons. So I'm going to dial the student down to 40%. And what that'll do is now I can go to the student mode. The student can move the ailerons, but not as much as I can, right? And if I go to the student mode, he's got control, and so do I. So I can override pretty much anything that the student does wrong. Now, when I'm training, I tend to be moving my sticks the way I would move the sticks, and just so that I'm ready as soon as the student gets into trouble. So I prefer not to do this. I prefer to give the student full control. So I'll go ahead and dial that back up to 100%. And that's pretty much the basics of setting things up. Very powerful as far as maintaining control between student and teacher. Then, in addition, unlike most of the trainers out there where you really just have the 4 basic controls coming over the PPM wire, here we actually have the ability to go 8 channels for the student. And so I can set up any control on my teacher box that will be controlled by a control on the student box. So here in student mode, I can dial down and set up which control on here I want to go to which channel over on the communication network over to the DC16. Don't normally use this, but if we had flaps or landing gear or anything like that on a separate channel, we could certainly do that and, for example, assign this pot to drive the same thing that this pot drives for me, and things like that. The other thing that you'll want to do, you'll notice that in both cases here, I've set up the plane as the demo plane, and essentially what I was trying to get at there is what I would ordinarily do is I would take the program from my DC16 and I would just copy it to the DS16. Those program files are totally compatible. The only thing you have to be careful of is if the program is leveraging a switch on the DC16 that isn't on the DS16, things like that. But then you can just adjust the programming on the DS16 to switch controls. But for basic 4-channel trainer kind of flying, you don't need to do anything fancy there, and it's very straightforward and easy. You just copy the model over after you've got the trainer flying cleanly with the DC16, and it will fly exactly the same way with the DS16 flying through the trainer mode. That's it. Hope that helped.